You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. 100.9 app, Los Angeles. Here's Eddie Garcia.
In golf, opening round of the Masters was scheduled to get underway this morning, but tee times at Augusta have been delayed until further notice due to thunderstorms and wind gusts. Weather issues are expected to cause the first round to be completed on Friday. In the NBA, big showdown out west with the Nuggets topping the Timberwolves 116-107. Nikola Jokic, 41 points, 11 rebounds for Denver as they move a game up on Minnesota for the top record in the Western Conference. Thunder remain a game back in that West race, beating the Spurs 127-89. Bucks over the Magic 117-99. Milwaukee winning without injured star Giannis Antetokounmpo, injured the night before in the game. He had an MRI. The Achilles apparently is okay. Calf strain. He will not play the rest of the regular season. Hopefully he can return for the playoffs. Suns over the Clippers 124-108. Mavericks down the Heat 111-92. Baseball news. The former interpreter for Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani facing federal charges related to his theft of millions of dollars from the slugger. He's expected to plead guilty.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to center and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick you, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show. Follow and subscribe to the live stream on Facebook. Facebook.com, Alabama Sports with Martin Houston. This is the Martin Houston Show. Talking Alabama sports. This is Alabama Sports, your show, your team. Got X going to be talking a little roster management and recruiting in today's playbook. That's the first play call we'll have today. We'll have a little true-false Thursday, time permitting. We're definitely going to have some football talk around A-Day and a SWOT analysis of this particular team. Maybe even throw a little bit of Bama Hoops roster tracker in there. And as we always invite you to be a part of the show, the Alabama One hotline, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. And we want to thank Alabama One, for their great support of the program. Go to alabama1.org. You can find out more about what all is happening there, but go check out the high yield checking account starting at 2%. You can get, that Ascend checking and earn up to as much as 5.2%, interest on a checking account, an operational checking account. So go check them out. Also, Alabama One has their annual One Community golf tournament coming up on June 13th. We'd love to have you come out and play as one of our teams. If you're looking for a great event to sponsor, you can sponsor there. All of that money goes to support our self-sustaining Alabama One Aspire Foundation, giving out over $40,000 in scholarships. We support great community activities like, through all the kids who play para baseball, both, in the para league and, the Druid City League. All of them have Alabama One on their sleeve because of your support. So, great things going on in this community and around the state. That's Alabama One, alabama1.org. I'll tell you more about what they have going on later on in the program. Also, you have an opportunity for you to comment, react, or add questions to the program. Get going already jumping in on the injury report before the spring game. You can add your comments there. Just add it in chat, and it'll work its way into the conversation. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Had a lot of basketball conversation this week, and CJ Watson and I communicated offline in how the fact that how good a place Alabama sports is in and basketball is in when I come in with the intentions of talking football some, and the entire conversation it's not even directly related to Alabama basketball, but just basketball in general. The fact that Alabama is part of the national conversation. If you talk about any job anywhere, Alabama is part of that conversation now. So we were just talking about how far it's come. So pretty neat scenario there. So, but let's talk a little roster management, recruiting. We can talk it both from a Bama Hoops roster tracker and or Alabama football. So what you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to actually kick the conversation off with some basketball news. The portal has opened for basketball already, as it will get ready to open on Monday for football. But Alabama freshman Chris Parker, who was the number 99 overall recruit in the 2023 class, has entered the portal. He redshirted this past year, so wasn't out on the court with Bama during this run, but was a guy that potentially could have gotten into the rotation this year, coming up here, depending on who left. He grew 3 inches since he's been on campus. He went from 6'6" to 6'9", so maybe, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know a guy that happened to in the football field. Jay Barker was like 5'9" in high school, in freshman, and then when he got to Alabama, I'll never forget. I don't think it was quite 3 inches, but he was here. He left. He came back, and it was like he did it like over the summer, like over a month away from the program. It was the weirdest thing, man. So, I've seen it happen, but 3 inches for a guy who's already 6'6" is, that's crazy. The question is, does he remain a point guard? I mean,
I doubt that.
He's a mismatch now though, man. I mean, dog.
Yeah, he is.
That's crazy. And the question, I guess, X, even though he's in the portal, do you think he's a guy that Nate Oates goes after, or is this a move based on maybe something we can read into it that's, from an Alabama standpoint, guys returning?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you have to wait and see, who does decide to enter the draft, who else decides to enter the portal, what really happens if Nate Oates fights to get him back. It's the new age of college athletics, especially in basketball when you're really limited on scholarships. As of right now, if he were to come back, Alabama wouldn't have any open spots on their roster if everybody else that could come back came back. So this might be hey man, go somewhere where you're going to get some real PT, get out on the court and make a name for yourself. Or it could be him just wanting to go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah, I guess you kind of avoided the question. You talked about it, but I'm asking you your opinion. Do you think this means that some guys are coming back? Because you alluded to the fact right now, Alabama has a lot of guys who are eligible to come back. I think the only guy that has to leave is Estrada, right?
Estrada. Yeah, Aaron Estrada is the only guy that couldn't return from this roster.
So do you think, yay or nay, this is an indication that these guys may do like, you remember Alabama's last national championship?
Mm-hmm.
What happened in that? I wish that team had got to play in a regular year. I wish it wasn't COVID, because it's the first time Alabama had a situation where guys who could have been in the draft came back. You had Najee,
Leatherwood,
in Leatherwood, and Dickerson, right? Yeah.
Dickerson, you look at the defensive side of the ball, there were several guys
that all decided to run
it. It was an injury thing, but you got Dylan Moses back and a couple others.
Yeah, and that was the first time Alabama ever had that many guys. We'd have, 4 or 5 guys who could leave early as juniors, and all but one would leave or something like that. That year they ran it back. I wish I could have seen that team play. You know what I mean? I've always put an asterisk beside it, because I think, when I say asterisk, I'm just talking about in my head. It's a legit championship. But I wish I could have seen that team play a regular season. And that's what we're kind of looking at here on this basketball team. Let's get Justin's thoughts real quick. Justin, do you think that maybe this is a indication for Alabama basketball?
Sure. I'm right there with X. I think it probably is. You're going to see some guys that were on this roster come back, but I think it's more of an indication that Alabama's going to go get some more guys from the transfer portal. We may see more players enter the portal that were on the team last year, because simply they're going to be replaced with other people. And I'm hoping it's a 7-foot center out of Arizona.
You're throwing your hat in for Balla, right? Isn't that how you say his name, Balla?
Yeah, I think that's how you say it. I got several hats in for him.
We'll talk about him in the second quarter. X. Instead of rushing it, we'll just take some time and talk about roster management, both from basketball and football. Once again, football, I mean, it's what's hot right now, which is kind of crazy. Even though we got a spring game coming up.
Stick around. I got some football news for you. Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely got some football news. I'm going to go ahead and throw a true false out there for you to think about. This is what this conversation we're having. This is why, guys, we have to be careful about guys who leave the program. Right now, Chris Parker could be leaving because Chris Parker is not satisfied. Chris Parker could have also had a sit-down conversation with Coach Oates and said, hey, what's the plan? What are you doing in the portal? I'm hearing this. I'm hearing this. There's some big-time guys who are older. Nate Oates showed last year that he was going to bring in older guys, Reitzel, Estrada, and Grant, along with developing some younger guys. So did Chris Parker get told, hey, you may want to go somewhere, like X said? So this is why we have to be careful with how we assess who goes into the portal and who doesn't, because sometimes it's not about whether you want to go in the portal. It's sometimes you've actually been coached along. We'll keep the roster management / recruiting talk with Max Recruiting going. If you have a question, a comment, please add it to chat. We'll be back in just a moment to keep it rolling right here on your home for Alabama Sports Talk, 100.9, 1230 a.m. WTBC on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. There's not much on the board as we open up things for this Thursday morning drive. If you're traveling along McFarland Boulevard, coming down from Coker through Northport, crossing the river down to U of A and I-20 beyond, you're moving at posted speeds along the way there.
Return it for free with Lume's 60-day money-back guarantee. That's LUME deodorant.com, code 555 to save 15% today.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy, breezy, and cool today. The chance of a few scattered showers, the high 66. For tonight, becoming clear, the low 48. Tomorrow and Saturday, sunny both days. The high tomorrow 71. Warmer Saturday with a high at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 30B40 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
That's right. We're back, and we're back at it. We're glad that you're up and at it with us on this beautiful Thursday morning. We have some great conversation lined up for you. Love to get you in on it. 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. Or just add your thoughts and comments in on the live stream if you're streaming and listening to the podcast online. It's the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. It's time for a little bit more max recruiting, roster management / recruiting. X, anything else from a basketball standpoint before we flip the conversation over to football?
Yeah, I know Justin mentioned Ballou, the transfer center from Arizona, but there's one center that I would love to see transfer to Alabama, and that's actually Stanford center Maxime Reynaud out of this guy. He was voted the Pac-12 most improved player. He went from 8 points, 6 rebounds, and half a block a game to 15 points, just under 10 rebounds, and 1 block a game this past year. He shoots 56% from the field, 36% from three, and 78% from the free throw line. He's 7'1", 250. He is a guy that I would love to see play in this Nate Oates offense.
Yeah, so Justin said he had his hand in for Ballo. And you said, what's the young man's name? Reynaud?
Maxime Reynaud.
Reynaud. Justin, all right, give us your case for Ballo.
Truthfully, I'll take either or.
Hey, Justin, I'm gonna make it easy. True, false? You want a specific center, or you just want a big man that can help us when we face a big man?
Exactly. It's true. I want somebody who, when we go up against the Zach Edey's of the world, we can at least get a hand up there.
I'm not even that greedy. I won't even make Zach Edey the standard. I just want a guy that's 7 foot that weighs over 200 pounds. I know that sounds bad, but of those two, seriously, has Reynaud taken any threes? I know Ballo has yet to take a three in his career. And what I'm wondering is what makes him going to the portal from Arizona. Is it just NIL, or is there something going on there?
I don't know what it is with Ballo. I've looked at him a little bit, but man, Reynaud has just jumped off the screen at me, and so I've really been watching him, some of his film, and man, he's just so versatile that when you look at what big men can do, he's athletic like UConn's big man with more of a three.
And that probably is a better fit, if he can, cause Clingan showed me a lot. I didn't know that if he would be able to get down in there and really just, to me, he can be today's big man, or he could be, the old school big man. And that's what it sounds like this guy may be. So, we'll keep our eyes on him. And to your point, X, I don't know if you're saying anything else about basketball. True, false, Bama is in on just about anybody that's in the portal, regardless of position. Right now, Alabama's in on the portal, and we may see some guys leave not out of want to, but have to.
True. I definitely think it'll be more out of have to than want to. There's one more, like I've really been looking at the big man, and there's one more big man that really stood out to me that I was looking at. And so he's a forward out of Rutgers, and he'll be a grad transfer, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his, I'll try. Rutgers forward Clifford Omoruyi. He averaged 10 points, 8 rebounds, and half an assist a game, but he averaged 2.9 blocks per game at 6'11", 240. So
okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds like a bigger version of potentially Grant Nelson. And if Grant Nelson comes back and you add a big man like that, Bama is ready to do some damage. Go ahead, finish up on the basketball conversation from a recruiting standpoint. We got a couple guys that got some questions, then we'll transition to football.
Yeah, that's it for basketball. We can go ahead and get to the phones.
All right. CJ Watson, I did not see this. I had not seen it yet. Did we see the final AP poll? Bama finished ranked number 3 after the NCAA tournament. Kudos to Bama. Is that the I would assume that that's the highest, ranking Alabama ever finished the season with. So just FYI, Jed Cohen giving you another guy to research, Xavier. Write this name down, see if you can get some information on Robbie Avila. Avila. So, check him out.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Is that who that is?
That's his nickname. Yeah, he's out of Indiana State.
Isn't that where Bird played?
That is where Bird played.
Well, maybe we can get some of that magic too. Let's get to the phone lines. Oh, I didn't even mean to do that. Bird played, get some of that magic. For y'all young folks, y'all don't know what that means, but Michigan State played Indiana State in the national championship, and it was Bird versus Magic. But I wasn't meaning to do that. That was just coincidence. So, all right. Joey, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. You got a NIL question for us? What's up?
Yeah, Martin, I haven't. You can expound on it if someone's mentioned it already. How soon do you think that I'm going to assume that a new super conference or conferences with the college football are going to happen? But how soon do they become minor league for the NFL, and the NFL has to send money to the club? In other words, and it could be broken down like the NFC East has to send money to, say, the Southeastern Conference league, whatever. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think I understand what you're saying. I don't know if it's going to go to that point because it appears that there's some movement by a couple of power brokers. I think it's going to stay within the college ranks because if they start giving money, then they can start giving guidance and direction. And I don't think that the top level of commissioners – in other words, if you're the commissioner of Big Ten and SEC, do you want to be taking your direction from the NFL? Because if they start giving money, then you have to start doing things the way they want it done and different things like that. I do think the super conferences are coming, but, Joey, I think that I'm saying it here first. You guys can respond or agree or disagree. I think we're going to see a complete shakeup, and we're going to see a retro move and a forward move at the same time. And what I mean by that is I think all of these conferences are going to go back to their original alignment at some point from the past for all sports except for football. I don't think it'll go to the NFL model that you just mentioned, but I do think football will become separate in its alignment while the other sports will have to go back to It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense monetarily. It doesn't make sense from a student standpoint. It doesn't make sense from, rival. There's nothing positive about UCLA having to play Maryland. I mean, there's just nothing valuable. It's going to cost a lot more than it's worth. And the only reason we're having realignment is based on football. The Pac-12 didn't dissolve because USC wanted to go start playing Ohio State and getting Ohio State money in basketball or baseball or women's sports or golf. Could you imagine what that's going to cost? I mean, think about that for a second. It's just, so I think you're going to see both things happen at the same time. I think we're going to see a retro back to some prior alignments while at the same time, separating football. X.
Okay.
Thanks,
yeah,
Joe.
I mean, I can definitely see that happening, and it would be an interesting move. Football is becoming its own true entity at the college level, and it, as I said, why is UCLA having to go to Maryland and Maryland having to go out there? This is going to be one-sided fan-based games. I mean, it's going to be the home crowd. Most people aren't going to travel, 3,000, 4,000 miles for 4 hours of football of a regular season game.
Let me give you guys some example, and this is going to hurt, and people are going to be offended by it. But sorry, we just watched on Sunday the most watched basketball game in 5 years, and it was a women's basketball game. 18 point something million viewers on average, peaked at 24 million. Most watched. It made just under $7 million in like TV revenue. You know how much was paid for the men? 800. And I think it was 890 something million. 99% more. And I heard some people saying, well, that's going to change next year. No, it's not. Who's Caitlin Clark for basketball next year?
Haley Van Lith, maybe. Paige Buckers.
Do we know who they are? It took a 2-year run of a historic manner to get there. Anytime you have a historic matchup, you have historic viewing. You can't make you don't make a business decision on a one-time thing. And until there's some consistent Caitlin Clarks and some consistency, think about how dominant UConn was. Did it change basketball? Did it change women basketball viewing, Justin? Did it change X?
Nope.
We just had a historic run. How many guys and gals wanted to see her play before her career was over, and they're not planning on watching women's basketball next year? Now the media could talk about it. They're going to have to do that year after year after year before it gets to that point. Did you hear that gap, Xavier? 90-something million dollars difference from one revenue source. That was just a TV revenue source. So do you think that the TV, I'm responsible for my marketing budget at Alabama 1. If I was doing basketball, this is what I would say. If they came to me and I was like, yeah, that was great, but I'm going to need to see other, I'm going to need to know that any
track record.
Well, not just a track record. I need to know that any women's game is going to bring that kind of clout, because I don't know what the schedule is, right? Now, if you could tell me you're going to have a Caitlin Clark versus South Carolina type matchup every game that I'm paying for advertising for, then great. But I would rather have, if you're looking at a scale from 1 to 10x, I would rather have invest my money in a bunch of men's games that's going to get to 15 million no matter who's playing week in and week out, because I know how many viewers I'm going to have, than to have 18 million viewing and then a 3 million. And that's the problem. Is if you got the right matchup, it's huge. And I hope it changes. I hope it continues to grow. But until it does, no one wants to be the leader. All these people be talking, put your money where your mouth is. All of you people who are like, man, women are being mistreated, women are this, start putting your money where your mouth is. Start spending your advertising dollars on women's games, and it'll solve the money issue. Stop talking about it, Good Morning America, and all of these other places. Start putting your money where your mouth is, and it'll change. But until there's revenue coming in, it just won't. Right? So,
yeah.
All right, come back on the other side. We got
Al.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show. Your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Check out Billy's Cooking Restaurant, Billy's Cooking LLC on Facebook. Great menu options and items. You can order via DoorDash. They have, of course, Wing Wednesday that was on yesterday. They have Fish Friday on tomorrow and Soul Food Sunday. Go check them out. They will be glad to serve you. 205-632-8617. Or once again, you can take care of your business via DoorDash. That's Billy's Cooking LLC. All right, Alan, you're in with Martin and Xavier. I think you had a little basketball conversation. What you got for us, man?
Man, if Bama goes out, like Xavier said, and gets a big man, we're going to be somebody to reckon with next year. He ain't going to be a 7-foot tall guy. I just need him to be somebody that Grant Nelson, if he comes back, go to a wing position, and this guy and somebody else protects the rim. If he does that, Bama's going to be tough next year, I believe. But the other thing
I think it's twofold, Alan. I think it's twofold. I think it's someone who can protect the rim as well as be a scorer. Because up until Edey, and there is no Edey out there right now, unless some body pops up from somewhere. There's no Edey out there. And so he's probably not the one you need to look at. We were able to play against Clingan, and if we had just a guy who could score and make him work on defense, it would have changed the game as well. So I think you need a rim protector and or a scorer in that 5 position, because when we put Pringle in, it allowed him to camp out and be a rim protector. If he had just the skill set of the North Carolina big man, then Clingan would have had to at least go out with him, which would have left the lane open. That's how they stopped us in the second half, was they just said, Clingan, you don't go anywhere. You stay in the middle, stop their drive. Everybody else, you camp out around the 3-point line. They refused to take the mid-range shot. We're not going to let them drive because of Clingan, and we're going to be at the 3-point line to stop them from shooting. And that's what changed the game.
It did. Well, it was two other things I want to talk about more. There was a couple of radio shows, I won't call no name. I'm so glad that y'all don't put, you and Xavier don't put politics on y'all's show. I refuse to listen to another show, another sports show that puts politics on there. It's a sports show. If I want to listen to politics, I'll go to CNN or I'll go to Fox News. I don't need politics on my sports shows. And I do appreciate y'all for not doing that.
Yeah, and I will say I don't want you to ever say I'm a hypocrite, because if a topic comes up that leads to that, I will talk about it, but that's not my goal and my intention. But I also want to say we're not perfect. We try to talk sports, and if it's not relevant, we don't talk about it. But if something relevant happens, we do try to Be relevant as well. I understand what you're saying. I appreciate that.
Yeah. There's one other thing I want to say. I tell you what, if I'm ever in a position where I've got millions and millions of dollars, and I have an interpreter that spends my money like that, without nobody knowing about it, without my agents knowing about it, about my financial people knowing about it, spending millions and millions of dollars, and they don't know anything about it, I think I'm gonna fire them. So, saying that, Otani interpreter is going to plead guilty, and I honestly believe he's a scapegoat, because you're not going to tell me this man done spent millions and millions of this man's money and nobody knew about it. Not one person knew about it. Not an agent, not his financial people. How did he get access to this man's money?
There we go. The magic question is, how did you get access to Shohei's money? How did you get access? That would be my only question. I'm going to accept your plea, but I need you, as part of your confession, I need you to tell me how did you pull this off as an interpreter? So there we go. Let that noodle a little bit.
It goes back to, me and you are a little bit older, so we watched, we used to watch at City Hall, when the City Hall just say, things that make you go, That's why, though. All right, y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate that. X respond, and then we'll get to Philip.
Now, as far as what you're talking about with the big man, I 100% agree with it. And then this situation with an interpreter and that type of money, something ain't right with that.
Yeah, probably so. Philip, you're on the Alabama One hotline with Martin and Xavier. What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning. How you doing, man?
Doing great. And you?
Doing good.
I'm doing good. My question is this, Martin. On the Nate Oates announcement the other day that Byrne gave, he mentioned the word NIL, getting our NIL up and all that. Okay. Shouldn't they be using the word collective?
Repeat that now.
The other day, when Greg Byrne issued that statement on Oates and his commitment to the team and all that, and I think they sort of loosely used the word NIL, our commitment to NIL and that and all that. It seems to me that the word really that needs to be used is our collective. Would you not agree? Do we use the word NIL when collective ought to be used?
X, I'll let him respond, then I'll respond.
Yes. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. So I would say yes.
Yeah. Alan, Philip, I think it's both. It's both. And the university formed a collective. And so what is it? Yay, Alabama or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that needs to get up. But the thing about it is there's a lot of people that don't want to give to that. Okay. If you had millions of dollars, and would you want to give it to a collective that can give it to whoever, or would you want to work out a deal with the specific player that you like?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can understand. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So say I'm a guy out there with a lot of money and I was an offensive lineman. Or let me give you a better example. Let's say I run into some money, okay? Lots of money that I have that I'm willing to give away in support of a young athlete. And I look out there at Alabama. You know who I'm gonna sign up with? I'm gonna go give Oots a little love instead of the collective. Why? Because that's he didn't fully play fullback, but he has a little bit. If they fool around and put a fullback in, I'm gonna go, and if he wears number 35 and he's a fullback, He gonna get my money. You see what I'm saying? So he what he's doing is walking both lines, because the reality of it is you don't have to give to a collective in the NIL world. When you give to a collective, you lose the ability to, I think that collectives kind of mess things up a little bit, in the sense that they became, they became the driving force, Philip. I would rather give my money to the players I want to give my money to versus somebody, in a tower somewhere deciding and saying, hey, here, we're going to make sure. And I get it from a team standpoint. I get it from the Alabama standpoint. They want to be able to give everybody something. And that's what the collective does. It makes sure that there's money for everybody versus name, image, and likeness is really about name, image, and likeness. And that's why it's all messed up.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Another question is, do you think one way to sort of clean this NIL collective thing up and make it make sense is if players are termed he's on the collective scholarship or he's going to be on our NIL scholarship? You sort of be dividing up the classes in terms of collective scholarships and NIL.
I don't think it would. I think that because guys could move back and you'd have guys moving back and forth and things like that, and you would be making a class system within your program. Who determines? It's already a class system anyway. It's clearly, let's make a basketball story. I love the assist stat. But an assist stat is as much or more about the person who receives the pass. Caitlin Clark was the leader in scoring and assists in college basketball. That's because she was on a team that knocked down those passes that she was making, right? But she was the only one that got all of the deals. There was no Kate Martin, on the State Farm commercial. And that's already bad enough. If you make it collective versus, NIL, it's going to make that even more obvious. And I think you'd have more problems, Philip, if you did that.
Probably have big time locker room issues, big time.
Absolutely. I think that's going to become the downfall of the way it's going right now anyway. So.
They may have to make it where your junior year you're eligible for NIL. The first 2 years you're eligible for the collective automatically. Then the third year.
Philip, I don't want restrictions on it in the sense. I just want it to be used the way it was supposed to be used. Name, image, and likeness. That collective shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I got you, Martin. I'm sorry. I'm muddying it up. I know, man. I'm sorry.
No. It's not that you're muddying it up. It's that they let it get muddy by letting collectives. The collectives are a violation of the original rule. Name, image, and likeness is about me getting a deal. It would be like taking to the NFL level and saying, oh, hey, everybody in the NFL, we're going to have this collective over here, this group over here that's going to give all of you guys money regardless of what you do just because you made it to the pros. Well, that's what your contract is for in the pros. Well, that's what your scholarship is for in college. You have made it here. This is the school's investment. And then the other side of it is, hey, put it like this. Jerry Rice was the absolute most dominant single player of his time. He had a good boy image and he had virtually no NIL or endorsements. Until he became a bad boy, he got a few endorsements, right? Even though he had the name, he didn't have the image or the likeness that made people want to buy from him. Primetime, on the other hand, came out with this cocky attitude and made a killing. That's what name, image, and likeness is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that you getting this extra money just because. And everybody's arguing, players are arguing, all right, we need to be able to make money. Well, go make money. Collectives isn't you making money. Collective is someone else giving money and then you getting it just because you got a scholarship. Has nothing to do with name, image, and likeness. There are guys who are going to get part of your money if you gave to Yale, Alabama, which please continue to do because that's the way the game is played. But there are guys who are getting money. You wouldn't know their name if they walked up and slapped you and said, I'm an Alabama football player and I play this position. You'd be like, who? They have no name, image, or likeness, but they're getting paid under the umbrella of name, image, and likeness through a collective. So anyway, thanks, Philip.
Appreciate you, Martin. Sorry I gave you a headache this early.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll be back on the other side to put your finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. McFarland Boulevard from Airport Road across the river down to Jack Warner. That's going to take you about 8 minutes. Also a 9-minute drive on northbound 69 from 15th Street to Mid-Larry Road and along 2059 from the 359 interchange to Skyland Boulevard. Expect an 8-minute drive there. No big problems brewing into and out of the area. With Time Saver Traffic, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Thursday morning, yet another shooting in Tuscaloosa has left a person dead. This one last night around 11 p.m. in the 3100 block of 2nd Avenue. 20-year-old Michael Rashawn Kirkman is in custody, charged with the shooting death of a teenage male who was pronounced dead after being transported to DCH. The teen's identity has not yet been released. Kirkman is being held without bond under Aniah's law. It's the 7th homicide of the year in Tuscaloosa County. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more. Don Arkley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join us for a Friday edition of the program. It's the Martin Houston Show. We'll look at A-Day. We'll look at some of the A-Day awards, who we think will get them. We'll also have a flashback edition of the show, look at some topics from this past week as Alabama moves forward into 2024-2025 in football and basketball. What does the future hold? It's bright. We'll talk about it right here on your home for Alabama Sports Talk.
By Fincher and Osmond. Fincher and Osmond carries artisan-created diamonds. And trust us, they are bigger than you expect. Visit www.fincherandosmond.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. Man, we got into a lot of basketball conversation once again. Gotta love it. Really shows you where Alabama's basketball program is and where our minds still are even almost a week after the Final Four loss. But got some football recruiting news, and of course we can talk a little bit more about it tomorrow if we get a chance to. But Bama has some big names coming into town this weekend. Some of those are Caleb Cunningham, 5-star, 4-star wide receiver, depending on where you look at, out of Mississippi. He'll be here for A-Day. Bama's after big wide receivers. That's just what it is. This is what Kalen DeBoer wants. I think that's what you'll see moving forward, where the small wide receivers are still 6 feet in this system, as well as 4-star Marcus Harris out of Mater Dei High School, of course, the home of Bryce Young and Xavier Brown. Already have a commit from their 4-star linebacker in Abdul Sanders. Looks like Marcus Harris is really falling in love with his staff. He visited back in February. He's down to his top 5. He'll be back in May, but that is Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Tennessee, and Texas. Big names there. 4-star athlete out of Georgia, Todd Robinson from Valdosta has just received an offer from Bama. A name that not a lot of people know about yet, but he's been making waves, and Alabama has made the top 10 list for 4-star linebacker Jaden Harmon out of Rome, Georgia, 6'1", 215. He has taken 3 unofficial visits to Alabama, and he will be back again this summer. Still with us, Pops?
Yeah, I mean, you finished?
Yeah, I was just giving some names out if you had any questions.
I didn't have anything in particular. That is one of the questions I'd asked earlier in the week regarding big wide receivers. You could hear the excitement in Kalen DeBoer's voice when he talked about Caleb Odom and that big catch he made from the touchdown pass. So to me, that's exciting in terms of what happened with that wide receiver. I mean, with that big catch from Simpson down in the corner. So red zone play, big catch. I mean, Moss, the guy, went up over him. So it does seem that that's kind of the style player that he's going to get. On tomorrow, we'll keep the conversation rolling. We'll look at some of the awards that they give out. A lot of those are Alabama-based awards, so I wonder if Caleb will do them. We're gonna go ahead and give our thoughts on it. Not sure if he'll do it or not, but if he does, then we'll give you our best shot. So go dust off the Alabama awards and see who you think may get most improved, et cetera. Go ahead, X.
I can't believe I forgot this. I don't think we've talked about it this week, but Coach DeBoer talked about Parker Brailsford, said it's not a transfer portal thing right now. He's been dealing with some off the field stuff, so it looks like Parker will still be around for Alabama this fall.
Hey, I think I said that last Friday. We're still holding out to see, and that's good news for Bama. If Brailsford stays, it gives us some experience and depth. If he's a starter, we have an experienced starter. If he's not, that means that Brockermeyer got the job done, and we have an experienced backup and a young man that's mature, 4 years in the program. Remind me, may not say it tomorrow, but remind me of what been said. You had the Brockermeyer twins and what was said about this one early on in his career. Hey, that's Xavier Houston giving us an update on roster management and recruiting, talking basketball and football. He'll be back with us as always on a Free for All Friday. Hopefully you will come back and be with us as well. We'll be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow talking about Alabama's A-Day. We'll talk about spring awards. We'll probably keep the SWOT analysis to the off season, give an assessment after you see these guys live on a Saturday. A-Day is upon us. It's hard to believe. But man, what an exciting time for Alabama sports. We'll talk about it right here on your home for Alabama Sports 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. In the Martin Houston Show, remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide out there to all the